April 8, 1943. 27,000 feet above Caen, France. The cold bites through even the thickest leather gloves. Frost forms at the edge of the canopy. Below, a patchwork of green and gray farmlands stretches to the horizon. Above, thin clouds shimmer silver in the sunlight, the quiet before the hunt. Two Messerschmitt Bf-109s cut through the morning haze. Their pilots, seasoned Luftwaffe aces, fly in perfect formation. They've fought over Britain, over the Channel, and deep into the Russian front. Now, they guard France against a new kind of intruder, the strange twin-tailed fighter the Americans call the P-38 Lightning. Ein amerikanisches Monster, one of them sneers over the radio. He laughs. Two tails? It looks like a mistake. For months, German pilots have mocked the P-38. They call it the Zweischwanz-Teufel, the fork-tailed devil, not because they fear it, but because it seems ridiculous. Too big, too heavy, too awkward. No match, they think, for the sleek and agile 109. But today their laughter will die in their throats. High above, in the thin blue air, Lieutenant Robert Bob Haviland of the 20th Fighter Group levels his Lightning. His gloved hand tightens on the control yoke. The twin Allison engines hum with restrained fury, their propellers spinning faster than the eye can follow. The P-38's cockpit is a cathedral of glass and metal, humming with power and silence. On his left instrument panel, a small light flashes. Radar contact. Two enemy blips approaching from the east. He pushes the throttle forward. The engines roar to life. The twin booms carve the sky like silver blades. The Germans don't see him yet. They're too focused on scanning the distance for the heavy bombers they expect to ambush. Haviland's Lightning drops from above, silent, swift, surgical. At 400 miles per hour, he dives. The nose trembles slightly. He lines up his shot. 850 caliber machine guns, 4 in each wing, glint under the sunlight. He exhales once, then pulls the trigger. The air explodes with light and sound, a furious burst of tracers slicing through the thin air. The lead Messerschmitt bursts into smoke, rolling violently before disintegrating in midair. The second pilot jerks his stick in panic, climbing sharply, but the P-38 is already on him. The twin tails flash in his canopy mirror. And then the world becomes fire. 2 kills, 30 seconds. And just like that, the myth of the clumsy American plane shatters over the skies of France. As Haviland climbs back into the clouds, radio chatter fills his headset. Excited, breathless voices. The 20th Fighter Group reporting victories all across the sector. The Germans, once so confident, are losing altitude, losing formation, losing faith. The P-38 Lightning has arrived, and the Luftwaffe, the once invincible force of Europe, has just met the weapon that will haunt their dreams. Long before Lieutenant Haviland streaked through the clouds of France, the P-38 Lightning had been born in secrecy in the sprawling hangars of Lockheed's Burbank facility. The year was 1937. The U.S. Army Air Corps wanted something radical, a fighter that could climb faster, fly higher, and travel farther than anything the world had ever seen. Most engineers scoffed, but 2 men, Clarence Kelly Johnson and Hall Hibbard, believed it could be done. They envisioned a machine that looked nothing like a traditional fighter, a sleek central cockpit flanked by twin booms, each holding a turbo-supercharged Allison engine. It would be balanced, powerful, and deadly from any angle. When the first prototype, the XP-38, took off in January 1939, it looked more like a spaceship than a warplane. It climbed to 20,000 feet in minutes, breaking records before the world even knew its name. Yet it wasn't perfect. Its early test ended in disaster when ice formed in the carburetors, forcing a crash landing. But Lockheed didn't give up. They refined, tested, and perfected the design with relentless precision. By 1942, the Lightning had become one of the fastest and most heavily armed aircraft in the world. Its twin Allison V1710 engines gave it a top speed of over 400 mph. It carried a 20mm cannon and 450 caliber Browning machine guns, all mounted in the nose for deadly accuracy. And thanks to its twin engines and massive fuel tanks, it could escort bombers across entire countries, something no other fighter could do at the time. But when the first Lightnings arrived in Europe, the Luftwaffe laughed. To them, the P-38 seemed bulky and strange. The twin booms made it easy to spot, and in the cold, wet European weather, the early models struggled with engine reliability. German propaganda seized the chance, calling it the American mistake. Still, beneath the surface, something terrifying was taking shape. In the hands of skilled pilots, the P-38 became a precision instrument of war. It could climb like a rocket, dive faster than a Stuka, and, in the right hands, twist through the air with surgical agility. American engineers began upgrading it with better superchargers and improved controls, solving its high-altitude weaknesses one by one. By the time the 20th and 55th Fighter Groups entered combat, the Lightning was no longer an experimental weapon. It was a hunter, and its prey was the pride of the Luftwaffe, the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and the Focke-Wulf 190. German pilots soon discovered something unnerving. When the Lightning dove, it didn't just fall, it screamed. The airflow between the twin tails created a haunting, banshee-like howl that echoed across the sky. Allied airmen called it the howl of the devil, and soon, so did their enemies. Luftwaffe radio operators began reporting sightings with trembling voices. Zweischwanz Teufel, the fork-tailed devil. What began as mockery had turned to dread. In just months, Lightning squadrons started racking up kills across the Mediterranean, the Pacific, and the European mainland. Pilots like Major Richard Bong and Thomas Maguire, both flying P-38s, would go on to become America's top aces. But it wasn't just its speed or firepower that made the Lightning legendary. It was the message it carried, that the Allies could now take the fight to the Axis, anywhere, anytime. And soon, that message would thunder over the heart of Germany itself. December 1943, the gray winter sky over northern Germany. A formation of B-17 flying fortresses drones toward Bremen, engines thundering like distant storms. They're loaded with bombs, fuel, and fear. 25,000 feet of bitter cold between them and the frozen earth below. Above and behind them, flying watchful circles like hawks, are the P-38 Lightnings, the new long-range escorts of the 8th Air Force. Their silver skins flash in the pale sunlight. They are the angels of the bombers, the steel guardians against the black cross-marked predators that haunt the upper skies. Among them is Captain Charles "Chuck" Geyer, a veteran pilot who has seen both triumph and terror. His Lightning, named Lucky Lady, hums steadily, twin engines balanced like a heartbeat. His eyes sweep the horizon, searching for the inevitable, and then he sees them. Black dots, dozens of them, slicing down through the cloud cover. Messerschmitt Bf 109s and Focke-Wulf 190s, diving at murderous speed. Their formation is perfect, a wave of steel with sunlight glinting off wingtips. The Luftwaffe is coming. The bombers' defensive guns open up first, streaks of tracers, desperate and wild. But the German fighters are too fast. They tear through the outer formation, cannons blazing. One B-17 erupts in flames, spiraling earthward in a trail of smoke. "Brake right!" Geyer calls into his radio. He shoves the throttle forward. The twin engines scream in unison. The Lightning surges ahead, slicing through the thin air. He pulls up, rolls inverted, and drops down in a high-speed dive straight into the German attack. This is where the P-38 shines. While other American fighters struggle to keep pace, the Lightning's twin engines give it unmatched acceleration and climb. Geyer's nose-mounted guns, all firing directly forward without convergence issues, make aiming brutally simple. He closes in behind a Messerschmitt, the German pilot twisting desperately to shake him. But the Lightning stays locked, steady, relentless. Geyer squeezes the trigger. A stream of tracers tears through the sky. The Bf-109 shudders, bursts into flame, and breaks apart. Another 190 flashes past his canopy. Geyer banks hard, nearly blacking out from the G-forces. The Lightning's airframe creaks, but holds. He loops behind the German fighter, firing a burst so close he can see the pilot's white scarf whip in the cockpit. Another explosion. Another kill. All around, the sky is chaos. Silver and smoke, fire and ice. But one pattern is becoming clear. The Germans are no longer the hunters. They are being hunted. The P-38s are everywhere, diving, climbing, covering the bombers like a living wall of aluminum. Their long range allows them to stay with the bombers far deeper into enemy territory than any fighter before them. The Luftwaffe's old strategy, hit the bombers and run before the escorts arrive, no longer works. Now, the escorts are already there. Within minutes, the attack collapses. The surviving German fighters peel away, retreating into the cloud cover. Radio chatter fills the air. Bombers reporting minimal losses. Fighter squadrons celebrating kills. The mission continues toward Bremen. Geyer exhales, his gloved hand trembling slightly. Below him, the earth is a blur of snow and shadow. Above, the sky seems endless. He knows the lightning has changed everything. The Luftwaffe, once feared as the master of the skies, is bleeding altitude, fuel, and hope. And this is only the beginning. Because soon the same twin-tailed devil that guards the bombers over Europe will begin stalking Germany's last hope. The jet fighters that were supposed to turn the tide of the war. Spring 1944. Somewhere over southern Germany, the morning light spills across a sky painted with contrails. Down below, the wreckage of war stretches endlessly. Fields pocked with craters, black scars of bombed factories, and railways twisted like broken bones. Captain Geyer adjusts his oxygen mask. The familiar vibration of the P-38 Lightning fills his bones. That steady, deep hum of twin engines that means he's not alone up here. His flight of 4 Lightnings flies in diamond formation, watching over a returning bomber group. Suddenly, one of the gunners below yells over the radio, "Jets! We've got jets! 2 o'clock high!" Geyer's head snaps to the right, and there, slicing through the blue like silver needles, come the Messerschmitt Me 262s. Germany's new miracle weapon, the first operational jet fighter in the world. To most Allied pilots, they seem almost supernatural, faster than anything they've ever seen, capable of outrunning pursuit in seconds. The Luftwaffe hopes these machines will turn back the tide, restore air superiority, and save the Reich. But speed alone is not victory. The Me 262s dive on the bombers, their cannons blazing. A B-24 erupts in a fireball. Another limps out of formation, engines smoking. Geyer curses under his breath, then pushes the throttles forward to full power. The Lightning roars. Its twin Allison engines scream in protest as it climbs, nose pointed toward the impossible. He knows he can't chase the jets in a straight line. They're too fast. But the Me 262s have a weakness during their landing and takeoff. At low speeds, they're vulnerable, sluggish, heavy, easy prey. "Red flight with me," Geyer calls. "Cut them off near Augsburg." The P-38s bank hard, descending toward the airfield reported in intel briefings. Minutes later, they see it, the concrete strip glinting in the sunlight. 2 Me 262s are approaching for landing, their jet engines whining faintly in the distance. Geyer grins. "Fork-tailed devils, boys. Let's show them why." He dives. The Lightning's nose shudders as it cuts through the cold air at 450 miles per hour. The world becomes a blur, sky, ground, horizon, all spinning into one tunnel of focus. The lead jet touches down, too late. Geyer's 850 caliber guns unleash their fury. A line of fire rips across the runway. The Me 262 explodes, debris scattering like sparks across the concrete. The second jet tries to pull up, engines howling, but another Lightning strafes from the opposite angle, a clean hit through the fuselage. Seconds later, Silence, smoke, and the bitter smell of burning fuel. The radio crackles with excitement. 2 jets down. Repeat, 2 jets destroyed on approach. The Luftwaffe ground crew scatters in panic. Geyer circles once, then climbs high again, scanning for more. Nothing but rising black columns of smoke. For the first time, the Germans' most advanced weapon, their last desperate hope, has been humbled. News spreads quickly. Across Allied bases, pilots whisper the story of the lightning that killed jets. The myth of German invincibility shatters yet again. From North Africa to Italy, from the Channel Coast to Berlin itself, the P-38 continues its relentless work, bombing, escorting, photographing, hunting. It becomes the symbol of reach and power, the American war machine made of metal and will. Even Luftwaffe intelligence reports now admit it. The twin-tailed fighter attacks with speed and precision, morale impact on our pilots, severe. By the end of 1944, the fork-tailed devil is more than a nickname. It's a prophecy, because wherever it appears, German wings fall from the sky. March 1945. The war in Europe is dying, but it refuses to die quietly. Germany burns beneath a sky thick with smoke, the air alive with the thunder of engines. Allied bombers crisscross the continent in waves that seem endless, and above them, as always, fly the Guardians, the P-38 Lightnings, the silent reapers of the Reich's final days. Captain Geyer's Lucky Lady hums steadily as it crosses the Rhine. Below, what was once the might of the German war machine now lies in ruins. Tanks rusting on muddy roads, shattered trains spilling from broken tracks, airfields littered with the charred skeletons of aircraft. The Luftwaffe, once Europe's terror, now struggles to put even a handful of fighters in the air. Fuel is scarce. Young, untrained pilots replace the veterans who never returned. Yet still, the Americans fly with caution. A cornered enemy can still bite. At 15,000 feet, Geyer spots movement. A lone Focke-Wulf 190 weaving through the clouds. The German pilot must know he's outnumbered, outmatched, out of time. But still he flies, desperate to fight for a sky already lost. Geyer doesn't rush. He circles slowly, watching. The lightning's shadow glides across the white tops of clouds, twin tails gleaming in the sun. The German breaks into a dive, firing wildly, but it's over before it begins. A short burst, a flash, and the Focke-Wulf spirals down into smoke. Silence fills the cockpit. Only the engines remain, steady, rhythmic, eternal. In that silence, something shifts. Geyer doesn't feel triumph this time, only a quiet understanding of what it all means, the end of an age of men who ruled the skies through sheer nerve and steel, the P-38. Lightning has done its work. It has escorted bombers over Europe, crushed convoys in the Mediterranean, photographed targets in Italy, and fought over the jungles of the Pacific. It has downed fighters, bombers, and even jets. It has been both sword and shield, feared by the enemy, loved by its pilots. But its story is not only one of destruction, it's a story of transformation. When the Germans first saw it, they laughed. They mocked its shape, its twin tails, its size. They called it the fork-tailed devil as a joke. But in the end, that nickname became prophecy. The same twin booms they ridiculed became symbols of dread, shadows that spelled doom wherever they appeared. And beyond the war, the Lightning left a legacy written not in fire, but in innovation. It paved the way for the twin-engine fighters and reconnaissance planes that would define the next generation. It proved that courage and creativity, from the drawing board to the battlefield, could rewrite the rules of war. In the summer of 1945, as peace finally crept across a scarred Europe, the P-38s lined up quietly on English airfields. Their engines cooled for the last time. Their pilots, many now heroes, walked away, leaving behind machines that had carried them through both terror and triumph. And high above, in the memories of those who once looked up in fear, the image remained. two silver tails glinting against the sun, a sound like a scream carried by the wind, and the name whispered by every German pilot.